Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you. My name is Denzel Samuels. I head up global channels and alliances for GE Digital, part of GE. And this morning, I'm here to tell you a story. GE is a 130-year-old company. GE was one of the first, actually it was the first, ever listed on the Dow Jones Index. And as you know, the Dow Jones Index are 30 companies. And here we are, 100 years later, and it's the only company that was on the original 30. You do not become a 130-year-old company without having the DNA to reinvent yourselves. And the story I'm going to tell you this morning is the new shape, that new reinvention of GE that's taking us into what we call the fourth industrial revolution. So you may know, those of you that have studied history know that in 1790, the Industrial Revolution was born. The advent of new methods of textiles, the invention of the steam engine. It's hard to believe that before 1790, manufacturing was still done at home. People made stuff at home and then took it to a marketplace to sell. And the Industrial Revolution changed all that. It brought centers of excellence that we now know as manufacturing plants, and machines to do the work that people had done before. So what is this new, what is the new wave? What is the new industrial revolution, or what we're calling the fourth generation of the Industrial Revolution? Well, it's quite simply this. It's the digitization of industrials. And let me tell you what that means. Let's go back 25, 30 years ago. Between the years 1991 and 2010, the industrial world extracted roughly about 4% in productivity, okay? And that was done through things like Six Sigma, lean manufacturing, just-in-time supply chain. Many of you in the audience who have been in the industrial world recognize those terms. You heard about Jack Welch and how he drove productivity in GE during that era. But in the last 6 years, productivity gains in the world of industrials has been reduced to only 1%. Now here's an interesting data point. 1% productivity in the industrial world is over $1 trillion of value. 1%. This new world that we're moving to, that we believe GE is going to lead the way, and certainly in our partnership with Oracle, together we're going to forge a new era. We believe that we can generate 10 to 15% productivity. Think about what that will mean in terms of value to companies. You see, over the last 6 years, manufacturing companies, industrial companies, because they've only been able to extract about 1% of productivity, they haven't hired as many people as they wanted to. They haven't had the earnings that they have wanted to. They haven't had the growth that they've wanted to. So how do we do that? How do we take what has been kind of a very less than average productivity gain over the last 6 years, and how do we revolutionize that and create something that's so compelling that it's going to propel growth at an unprecedented rate? We do that by creating the industrial internet. Now, you've all heard about the consumer internet. Who dominates the consumer internet? at the consumer level, Amazon. And when they came into that space, for you and I as consumers, they didn't talk about a platform. They gave us applications that made it easy for us to order books and other products online. We've seen the move to enterprise cloud. If you look at Apple, when Apple created its iOS platform, the App Store has hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of apps. Apple only wrote 12 of those. When you talk about the industrial internet, there are very few companies that are really qualified to talk about creating the industrial internet, and we believe we are. Why? Look on the right-hand side of this chart. Physics and analytics. The reason we believe we're qualified to drive this growth is because we actually make the stuff that we're running analytics on. We make jet engines. We make power plants, oil refineries. We're in all the industrial spaces. As a matter of fact, if you look what our chairman, Jeff Immelt, has done over the last few years, he's focused on industrial. We sold GE Capital, financial services. We sold our appliances business because that was more of a consumer offering. And we focused on becoming an industrial company again. We launched GE Digital 4.5, 5 years ago. The fastest growing software planet in the the fastest growing software company in the history of the planet. We've gone from 0 to 7 billion in 48 months. That's the story I want to talk to you about today. So how do you get this operating system for the industrial internet? Well, in the same example I gave you earlier, first you have to start with an operating system, and we call that Predix. That operating system is an open system, open architecture. We want every developer in the world to be able to develop apps on that. We're going to launch 2 apps, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Or we've launched 2 apps. But we want the whole world to be developing apps on our industrial platform. But what does it mean? What does it mean being a digital company? So let me get into the story now, okay? I'm going to take one example, and that example is the jet engine. We build huge jet engines that power pretty much every fleet of aircraft in the world, from the 787s, the 747s, 777s, even down to smaller aircraft. Airbus, Boeing, you name it. They all use and buy our jet engines, and they're revered and trusted. If a jet engine fails during a flight, that's a bad thing, right? It's a really bad thing. And so what happens? In the old days, when a company sold a jet engine, they would also sell the airline a really, really onerous, heavy maintenance contract. Why? Because you never want that jet engine to fail. So now, the new world, the world of digital industrial, when we build our jet engines, a jet engine has hundreds of blades, and because they spin so quickly, they create a propulsion. We're putting sensor technology into every single one of the blades in our jet engines. Every single one of those sensors can tell you the condition of the blade, whether it's flying over the Sahara skies or maybe other polluted skies versus maybe the cleaner air over North America. Now, when you sell an engine to an airline, you don't know which skies it's going to fly over. Therefore, you build a very big maintenance contract. But if you've got a sensor on every single blade telling you how that blade is being affected by the air in which it's flying over, you can move the maintenance from reactive to proactive to predictive. So now because that maintenance predictive, you know before that blade is going to break. You know when it needs a power wash. You know when it needs to come off the wing. Every time you take a jet engine off the wing of a plane, that airline can't fly that plane, and it loses productivity of that asset, and it loses revenue. Just imagine this now. You've just reduced, by having digital technology built into your industrials and being able to read the analytics, get the insights, and drive outcomes for that airline, you just increased the productivity of that engine. You just reduced the downtime for that plane, that aircraft. You just increased their productivity and their revenues. That's how you drive 10 to 15% productivity in the world of industrials. And it's powerful. Imagine if you could do that in the world of automotives. Imagine if you can do that in chemical engineering. Imagine if you can do that with oil rigs. The possibilities are endless. And that's what we're building. That's what this new OS is all about. What's interesting is that we believe that by 2020, 75% will be moving to the cloud. And I'm actually going to talk about that in a minute, but we believe 75% will move to the cloud. So how does Oracle fit in? Why is Oracle such an important partner to us in this journey? Let me tell you why. The Oracle applications, every single one of the customers that we are selling to probably run an Oracle system or have Oracle applications or maybe even Oracle database. And what's really important for us is we start with ourselves, right? Which is why you heard Steve talk about what was important to us in terms of our choice to pick Oracle to run our ERP. We started with us first. We have to. We're standardizing end-to-end with Oracle. There are many reasons we're doing that. We believe it's best in class. But we also believe that the ability to go to market together is going to transform the way we do this for our customers. Because in that example I just gave you about the jet engine, the power is not just in giving a predictive maintenance schedule to the airline, but now, through integrating the world of operational technology with information technology, two worlds, by the way, that have never come together before. But by integrating those two worlds, the world we live in, OT, the world Oracle lives in, IT, by joining those two worlds together, we're now going to offer customers value that's never been offered before. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Let's take the exact same example. That jet engine, that intelligent engine, now with a combination of GE technology predicts and Oracle technology, Oracle's ERP applications, Oracle Cloud, we can now link that intelligent engine up to the airline's flight operations, to the airline's crew scheduling, to the airline's cargo handling, to the airport handling, to airport operations. That intelligent engine, that's no longer predictive maintenance, is no longer the value. Yeah, it's huge value. And that value just drove 10 to 15% productivity to the airline. But now it's linking up to all the ERP, back office applications and front office applications of the airline and the airport and the supply chain and everyone else that needs to know what that airline intends to do with that plane that is flying those customers. Can you see the power of that? Can you see the power? How that is something we've never been able to do before. But we can now. This is the first time in history we've had OT and IT come together as one. But we've got to start with ourselves. And so we've, in the throes of implementing this across the board at General Electric. General Electric is a very complicated company. It's very complex and it's very big. Just under $150 billion in revenues. 200 countries. 330,000 plus employees. Vertical businesses that are integrated. How are they integrated? GE Digital runs across all of those businesses. So you can just imagine how complicated that is. And I have been amazed how quickly we have taken the Oracle ERP across every single one of those businesses worldwide. And that's what we want to start to do for our customers. This slide tells you our strategy. We have a one slide for the strategy for GE Digital. First, we do it for ourselves. GE for GE. Every single one of GE's businesses and every single one of the applications that are used have to all run on Predix. That is the operating system for the industrial internet. That's how we drive it. Because if one of the world's largest industrial companies is using Predix and writing thousands of applications to run on Predix, we're going to put those applications into the GE store, just the way Apple did and they created the Apple Store. We're going to allow other industrial companies to buy it. We need to. After we've done this for ourselves, we'll do it for our customers. And we're in the throes of doing that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you a couple of those customer examples. But then the power is doing it for the world. The industrial internet for the world. That's when we allow the ecosystem, we unleash the ecosystem. All the systems integrators, all the technology providers, such as HP or Dell or Cisco, all the independent software vendors, all the telcoms. We unleash the world to develop applications on our open industrial internet. We believe the opportunity for that ecosystem to generate services by the year 2020 is $500 billion. Who else is growing at that rate? Who's doing that? This is the single biggest opportunity today in the marketplace for everyone. So let me come back a bit to the killer apps. You don't just sell an operating system. You don't just sell a platform. It's got to have value to the customer. And the way you drive that value is through killer apps. Our killer app, we have two killer apps. One is asset performance management. I just described that. We took an asset, it was the jet engine, and we made that asset more productive to the airline. And then we connected that intelligent asset to every other application that needs to know about the state and the condition of that asset. We made it more productive. Let me tell you something about making assets more productive. I'm going to use an example, or two examples, that maybe you've all heard of before, but through a different lens, okay? The lens is productivity of assets. Uber. Everyone talks about Uber. At GE, we look at Uber in a different way than maybe most other people. Uber has created a valuation for itself to make it the most valuable ground transportation company in the world, and yet it doesn't own a single vehicle. Airbnb, the most valuable hotel rooms in the world, more assets than anyone else, except they don't own any of them. They're bigger than the Starwood Hotel Group in terms of market valuation, and yet they don't own a single hotel room. What do both of these two companies have in common? What do they have in common? They found a way to make other people's assets more productive than the people that own those assets. They found a way to make other people's assets more productive than the companies that own those assets. Now, what if you're General Electric and you have these assets and they're oil refineries and jet engines and power plants, and someone else came along and found a way to make them more productive? You see, the reason that we are one of the 10 most profitable companies in the world is because we derive profit from the services that we give to our customers. Yeah, we build products. We build very good products. But the ongoing services is where we make the profit. Now, if someone else comes along and they find a better way to now make those assets more productive, we just lost 80% of our profit. So this isn't just a growth play. This started off as a defensive play. There are other engine manufacturers. They're not doing what we're doing. So when they go to an airline to sell their jet engines, what are they selling? What are they selling? They're selling a jet engine and a really big maintenance contract. No other value add. That's what asset performance management is. That's why that's the killer app. That's why that's so important. That's why we believe it's going to power the industrial internet. You heard Steve and Hino-san talk earlier about system of record and system of engagement. They're very important. They're very important. That's why Oracle is such a powerful partner to us, because we bring system of assets. And when you put those three things together, you are putting together the world of OT and IT, and that is powerful. The second killer app, Digital Thread. It's no good to build these industrial internet and build these systems and build these applications and not do it for yourself. So we have to connect the people of GE. We have to connect our processes. We have to connect our supply chain. We have to make everything seamless, from order entry to order management to provisioning to billing, but through everything we do. I'll tell you how seriously we're taking that killer app. We set ourselves a target at the beginning of this year, and we announced this publicly, actually, at our earnings announcement last week. And we said, if we use our own tools to drive Digital Thread, we should drive $500 million of productivity this year. We were at 550, going on to 600 million of measured productivity savings last month. So we've just upped the forecast. Now, who's doing that in the world of industrials? Everyone's complaining. You know, they're using all sorts of excuses. Currency, Brexit. I was in Europe last week. A number of times people use the word Brexit as an excuse. We're not. That's why these two killer apps are so important. But we want the ecosystem to build more. We want the ecosystem to really drive what we do. I'm going to talk about some customers. Rasgas is a customer, as many of you may know. They're huge. They came to us to say, we would really like to understand how you can increase productivity. Productivity in our refineries, productivity across end-to-end, what we're doing. We were able to sit down with them and within 30 to 60 days identify, and this is a significant, huge data point, we were able to look at how they could get 20%. Now remember what the chart earlier, 1%. In the last 6 years, on average, 1%. We were able to show them that by using Predix, we could generate 20% productivity across the assets that they moved to Predix. Huge. Schindler. I know here in Japan, Schindler's had some problems, accidents, and it's tarnished themselves as a company. Can you imagine if we had predicts working and we had the ability to know before an elevator failed? It would have saved lives, right? So they've come to us and we're working with them. And we're working with them in a way to say, we hope to help you predict failures. But there's another part of their story that I think is interesting too. And that is, they're an elevator company that have 1.5 million elevators around the world. But they don't think of themselves as an elevator company. Those 1.5 elevators, by the way, 1 billion people use them every single day of the week. 1 billion every single day. As you think of the industrial internet, and they're thinking of the industrial internet, they're thinking of it in a slightly different way. They're saying, we're not an elevator company. We're a transportation company. And we're taking 1 billion customers a day on a journey. That journey just happens to be on our elevators. How can we make those elevators safer? How can we make those elevators more productive, more efficient, more effective? If you are staying at a hotel, how will that elevator know? You pull out your room key, or you're carrying it in your pocket, and it's got some sort of RFID chip in it, and it knows you're walking up to the elevator. It knows which room you're in. You don't have to wait for it. You walk on, it takes you to the floor you're going to. Or it studied your patterns, and it knows that at 5 a.m. in the morning, you're going down to the gym to work out. Or it knows the last time you were in the gift shop and what you bought there. So now, this elevator has the power to market to you. Because if you're in the elevator for 30 seconds or 2 minutes, you're being marketed to directly. That's the power of the industrial internet combined with Oracle applications. Couldn't do that before. You can now. So we're taking this to the world. We're taking it to a very important strategic partner. Let me just talk a little bit about this, because this is really important. We launched our partner program 6 months ago. Now, you can imagine, sitting down and talking to a partner and saying, hey, look, this is what we'd like to do. Then you negotiate a contract. Then you redline the contract. We signed over 264 partners in 6 months. Why? I'll give you 2 reasons. One, the power of the brand of the General Electric Corporation and what our chairman, Mr. Jeffrey Immelt, is taking to the market and what he's doing. We're living this. And number 2, the sheer magnitude of the opportunity in the market. And everyone wants to get on board with this right now because they see it. It's bigger than the consumer internet or the consumer cloud. It's bigger than the enterprise cloud. Oracle saw that. Safra Katz came and spent time with us in March. I had the pleasure of hosting Safra, not only at our board meeting in March, but we hosted her at dinner. And she told the Oracle story, and she said how important it was for this partnership. And the 2 companies have become closer together. We were so committed to Open World, we sent over 200 GE employees to Open World. You can't do this without a company that's enterprise grade, that understands what we're doing in the world of OT. And the only way you bridge the gap between OT and IT is to bring those 2 Goliaths together. People criticize Oracle. Some of the newer cloud companies criticize Oracle for being 37 years old. We're 130 years old and we're still inventing ourselves. We need that 37. We need that 40 years of depth and experience and know-how to do what we're doing today. We can't do it with companies that have been around for a few years. They don't even know how to start. This is the most important relationship from any other relationship I showed you in the ecosystem on the chart. Yeah, we need the systems integrators. Yeah, it's important. They have to implement this stuff for us. We need the telcos. Why? In the world of connected devices, who connects them? But to give real exceptional value to the customer, we need an Oracle. And look at what they're doing for us. I already talked about 200 countries, and Steve mentioned, 150 systems or 200 plus systems going down to 40. Look at what they're doing for us. But what's remarkable about this, it's happened in months, right? This is obviously a longer journey. But what they've done, these numbers, they've done in months. And our CIO, Jim Fowler, our global CIO, he's the one that gave me this chart because he's so thrilled with the relationship with Oracle. It would be remiss of me to say that that type of depth of relationship doesn't just happen overnight. We've been an Oracle customer for a long time, but now we're taking that relationship to the next level. And so I want to, before I end, I want to mention something that's really important. When you look at the world of productivity of industrials, when you look at it through a lens that is business transformation, which is what I've really just described, but business transformation, transforming the way a company uses its assets, that's business transformation. When you look at it through that lens, you're no longer talking about 1% productivity gains. You're not talking about Six Sigma or lean manufacturing or some of the old techniques. You're talking about something truly transformational. That's number one. And that, when it's transformational, it's driving 10, 15, 20% productivity gains for that company. And by the way, those productivity gains go straight to the bottom line. That's money a company can now spend on other things that it never could before. Number two, when you're doing that, you have to build an ecosystem of partners who you trust, who you think of, who know will not let you down. And number three, you're building and creating a marketplace, because that ecosystem will build applications that will run on the operating system that you're creating. And that operating system is Predix, that's going to power and drive this fourth wave of the Industrial Revolution, which is called digitization. I want to end on one note, though, and this is really important. I talked about Uber, and I talked about Airbnb, and how they found a way to make someone else's assets more productive. Every single person in this room works for a company that has assets. You cannot think about this a year from now, 18 months from now, 2 years from now. This change is happening today, right now. And if you think, the journey to the cloud, I'll wait, I'll see how it goes. Someone else will come along and they will eat your lunch in the same way grand transportation companies and hotel groups that are dreading Uber and Airbnb. Please keep that in mind. Can you imagine what Rolls-Royce and Pratt & Whitney must be thinking right now? Because we can offer a jet engine that does all that. They haven't even started. Can you imagine? What happens if that happens to you and to your company? Where are you going to be? So my message to you is, don't think about this. You've got to start it. And I would trust companies like General Electric and Oracle in partnership to make this happen for you. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your attendance and being here and listening to our story. Thank you very much.